Hola, ¿cómo te va? Now you might wonder what on earth I'm doing there, but in my pidgin Spanish there, I'm basically saying, hello, how's it going? And the reason I did that was to make a point about communication. Good communication, or optimal communication, certainly requires or helps if you can see the person's face. So turning away, not making good eye contact, tends to cause communication to break down. And the other aspect that's very important in communication, and it may sound obvious, is language. So using the right words, if you like. Now, that can be keeping it simple so as people can understand, so maybe not using too much technical language, or using a different language altogether, but whichever. And the whole point of this short snippet really was just to kind of highlight some of the things that get MI. I saw a post the other day that said, "Oh, MI isn't applicable to personal trainers," and it kind of irked me a bit because I thought it either demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding about what MI is, or it kind of missed the point about what we tried to do with using MI within the behaviour change workshop. Now, one of the key skills, or a number of the key skills that are going to be picked up in the MI and behaviour change workshop is the importance of good communication. And we talk about that from a number of ways. Talk about the kind of 80-20 rule, the make sure you're doing more listening than you are talking. Another key skill for motivational interviewing is reflections. And reflections kind of complete the communication loop, because often we say things, the people hear that, your client hears that, they interpret it in such a way and they put their own meaning on it. And then they may say something to you, oh, I'm finding this really difficult running on the treadmill or whatever. You hear that and you interpret that as, oh, that it's really hard for them physically. And if you don't check that understanding by reflecting it back to them, then it could be that you're thinking they're finding it physically hard, but in fact what they meant was they find it technically difficult getting on with a moving surface under their feet. So you can see it's very important to complete the communication loop by using reflections, which are kind of a form of feedback and kind of checking in. Now that's a skill that you will learn on the MI workshop. Now, MI obviously has got its roots. There are thousands of peer-reviewed papers to show how effective motivational interviewing is in terms of getting people to change. And one of the comments that was made was people don't always have all the answers, because it's kind of a tenet of MI that the change must come from the client. And again, I think it demonstrates a misunderstanding, because I think sometimes people think with motivational interviewing you're not actually allowed to give advice or education, and that could not be further from the truth. I agree, sometimes your clients do not have all the answers, but you can give information in a number of ways. You can either force it on the person and just say, oh, well, did you know carbohydrates did this and they fuel your brain and they provide sugar and blah, blah, blah. Or you can ask the client's permission to kind of give advice or get their permission. So you can either say to them, would you be interested in hearing a little bit more about carbohydrates? The choice is still down to them. They can say, actually, no, I'm not interested in the slightest, in which case you kind of have to hold back. Or they may go, oh yeah, please. Or the other way that you get permission is they ask you, oh, can you tell me a little bit more about carbohydrates? That's giving you permission to offer advice. So I agree that the clients don't always have all the answers, and as a trainer, you don't have all the answers either, but you certainly should have the technical knowledge, and you can impart that education to your client as long as you respect their autonomy, their right to turn around and go, do you know what, I'm not interested. So just wanted to clarify those few points about MI. And the other thing that really is important to understand with MI is two of the key skills in that early communication process are what is known as engaging. So it's kind of getting on board with the client, understanding their perspective, understanding where their beliefs and values are. Now, no one is going to tell me that that is not important in initial stages with the client. In fact, it's important every time you meet a client, because things might have changed since you last saw them. So to just out of hand dismiss MI and say it's not valuable for personal trainers is ridiculous and shows a lack of understanding of what is involved with MI. So I talked about engaging as a key skill. The other skill that's very important is empathy, but more important, accurate empathy. A client is always going to appreciate and understand if their trainer is being empathic towards them. So I'm just going to leave it there. It's kind of thought for the weekend, if you like. But good communication, good eye contact, nice clear language, checking in with your language, getting positive, getting feedback to make sure you are understanding things correctly. Very, very important in the client personal trainer relationship. And certainly a skill that even a seasoned trainer or coach and a rookie trainer or coach should be honing at all times. So hopefully that's kind of cleared that up, and enjoy the rest of the Easter weekend. Have as many Easter eggs as you like. No guilt trips here and no such thing as bad food. So anyway, nice to speak with you, and I'll see you soon.